Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fiat-proof podcast. I'm Sylvia, and today, welcome back, Elizabeth. She's been on the podcast once a few months ago. She reached out after seeing the documentary, I think, and then asking to volunteer. She did. She came over, spent a few weeks with us, staying in the same building, which was really cool. And then she was very actively involved in preparing for the Bitcoin Atlantis conference, and also very actively involved during the conference, especially with the kids. My kids absolutely adore her and ask about her, and that's not that common. Like my kids, when they say, can we see Elizabeth, or is Elizabeth gonna be here? And can Elizabeth look after us? That is the proof of having the right person around. So welcome back, Elizabeth.
Wow, thank you. To the introduction, I didn't
I tried
didn't
to put some
expect.
applause in the background.
That's really touching, actually. Uh, your kids are great, and so are you. And I was happy to make that connection with you there and your whole family. Yeah, it's very special.
Yeah, we want you back here. You know that. Like we're trying to get you over, be part of a place to be.
Mhm.
But yeah, you still are. Elizabeth is still helping. We're doing some branding and marketing calls, and yeah, I know. Whenever I need help, advice, or some guidance, I message Elizabeth, and she's there. So she's awesome. You're awesome. And the reason why you're here for the second time is because it was so much fun to work with you. It was so helpful. Like we spent hours at my place or at your place, um, and then writing something for a place to be, either the guidelines that you helped me with. And one thing you did is you left a couple of books. The people who can see us now on YouTube, it's this book. It's Cole Summer book, Don't Tell Me I Can't. You left it here because you thought it would be a great read, a good book for our library at a place to be for everybody, the kids and the adults, whether they're parents or they're just people working there or hanging out there. Do you want to explain a little bit about it, why you had that idea to leave the book with us?
Yes, I'm actually glad you brought that up because any chance that I can get to get that title of the book out and the author. His story is just so wonderful. He wrote his own autobiography, and this is something he had wanted to do all his life, he said, and he finally did it at age 14. So yeah, it's a real short read, so it's easy for everybody to read it, and you could read it in less than a day. My nephew did. Um, yeah, so I brought that over. That's the same copy that I bought myself. I would buy more, and I lent it to my family, and I think everybody in my sister's family read it. That the reading age, she has 5 kids, so um, yeah, it's just a humble story of his whole life, and he was unschooled, and just some of the things that he did um, that are almost unbelievable. But he bought a car at age 8, and he also bought a house at age 10 to fix it up. And he taught himself how to do most everything via the great teaching tool of YouTube. So he had all this time, um, plenty of time to find his interests and go for them. So it's just a really great read.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I'm a very slow reader, and I read it quickly. Then I passed it on to my friend Annie, who read it also very quickly, and she's got a son who's 9, who's being unschooled. Um,
Yeah.
and she's going to pass it on to him once I give it back to her, because I wanted to
Oh,
show it here, maybe read a little something. It's really just amazing. We had the idea of talking about this book. That's why we're doing the second podcast, because one thing he says is that one thing his parents never said was,
mm,
you cannot do this. There were like maybe 2 times where they said, we want somebody around to do like with the electrical. That was one time when they said, no, we don't want you to do this on your own. So he got this electrician over, and he taught him. It's not that he did it for him, he actually taught him to do it. We took some quotes from the book and put them in our guidelines, a place to be guidelines, just to show examples, real life examples of people, unschoolers, and from other books as well. But this example is about, yeah, Joey, the guy who came over to teach it or to help him install cabinets. This Joey was really amazed to see a kid do all this work by himself. And then he saw something that Cole, the boy who wrote this, had written down. And he said, dude, you better work on that spelling if you're going to get a good job one day. And then he asked him if he had a problem reading it or understanding it. And he said, no. So, and he said, but important papers need the spelling be right. And then he explained that, important papers would all be typed and spell check would fix most of it. Because this book is just a few years old. This is not from the 90s or something. They had their computers and their smartphones, the same like that we use. And then he said, plus everybody in that room had type to talk in their back pockets. And it wasn't that I thought spelling was useless or unimportant, he writes. I just didn't think it was important enough to spend extra time being perfect on it instead of growing my business. And then my spelling got my point across and I could get better as I needed to. And then this funny part, Joey sighed and looked around. I can't argue with that, he said. He commented about him being the one working for an 11-year-old and said it was making him question a lot of he thought he knew. And that is so funny that
Yeah,
and it's
that's
so true. Like most of the things you learn at school, you don't need in that moment of time. Of course, at some point, people will need to learn how to read and write and correctly and, get the spelling right. But schools limit so much. This boy, he had like 99.5% freedom of choice of what to do with his time. And he had to also, that was another point we wanted to talk about, that I remember Elizabeth and me talking about that. His parents were disabled, or his father was in a wheelchair, his mother had health issues, I think his little brother as well.
yes. So I mean, from a young age, he actually needed to do things on his own. I'm not sure if it was an older brother or younger brother, but one of his brother was born disabled, and his mom was partially blind or blind, legally
Mm.
blind, so she couldn't drive, and there was some limited things. And his dad was pretty good up until he was 2, and he had a surgery done when Cole was 2. His dad had a surgery that went wrong, and he became disabled, and he had to become into a wheelchair. So he he had to do things for himself at a young age, just because sometimes his parents couldn't like reach for something, and he was actually really wanting to do that. I guess his mom told him that he would always just say, me do it. And then he would, she would let him, or, sometimes he had to. So most of the time, there's so many things that people do for kids, either when you're caretaking for them or they're your own kids. And there's so many things that they probably could do on their own. It would just take them longer to learn, or get them doing that on their own. But it was at a disadvantage, but maybe it was like really his advantage. Uh, Almost like a strange case to where he he was able to like, among other children, wouldn't ever be able to do the things that he did at a
Mhm.
young age, and then build on those at a young age.
It's this, we got this awareness that less is more. Like the less you do for your kids or for any kid, the less you help or interfere, the better. And you don't have to be wheelchair bound or get disabled to let your children take over. And I don't think you need to, set up challenges for them either. But as long as you just let them help when they want to help, like when whatever age, if they're 1 or 2 or 3 or 10, or if you've, helped too much and now they're in their teens, like 12, 13, stop doing things for your children because it's really good for them to learn how to do things by themselves. Yeah, that's something because that's why we put this in the guidelines, because it shows the less you do for your children, the better for them. It's
Mhm.
not easy for most parents, probably because it's what most people do. And I said that in my last podcast as well. Even if I'm the one doing nothing for my children, then other people take over. Like I let them struggle with, I don't know, knife and fork, or pouring themselves something to drink, or doing something outside. And then people come running to save them and help them. And I'm just, oh, what are you doing?
Oh,
It's like, you're ruining my child. No, you're not, but it's just so much better if you let kids try and do things by themselves.
yeah, and to your point about how he said his parents said no, didn't say that, and yet the title of his book is "Don't Tell Me I Can't,"
Mhm.
because he got that from other adults or older
Yes.
people. One example he said was by a neighbor um, asked if there was anybody that could help plant a garden or but she wasn't directing it at the children, and he said I can. And she's like, you're too little. You can't. And then when he went home, his mom let him just plant his own garden at 5. So
Yeah, that's he got that as a motivation even. At some point when he heard somebody say you can't do that, he said, "Okay, watch me do it." And he did it just,
yeah.
to prove them wrong. Yeah, that's why unschooling is so much better than sending your kids to school. They learn so much more, and real life stuff. Yeah, real life stuff that they can use right away. Like in school, you might learn something that you might use in 30 years' time, but by then you have forgotten about it.
Mhm.
And the time you spend learning this at school, you could be doing something else. You start at a certain age, and then you can do it as much as you want or as little as you want for as many years as you want. And doesn't that make more sense than learning things by heart, memorizing at school, and then forgetting about it? And maybe one day, maybe you'll need it, and then you learn it. I don't know how many people are listening to this who are not unschoolers or who are considering unschooling. But the more you think about it, the more you read about it, the more you will find that unschooling makes so much more sense if you want your child to be like able and capable person now and in the future. Because little people are also very, very capable. Like give a 2-year-old broom and something, and they'll be making a bigger mess than there was before. But if you let them do it, if you don't interfere, like no judgment, no teaching them even, they will learn all by themselves. That's I've seen it. My kids have gone through this. And they cook and they tidy. Like this morning, we woke up and Lima got out of bed, and I was still, with my eye mask on there, cuddling with Bo, and Lima was doing something. And then she said, "Mommy, don't roll over to my side because I just made my bed. No, don't mess up my bed, please." So I've never asked her to make our bed. She just does it because she wants to. If you let them, they will even do things that you think they hate or see as chores. And if you make chores, it's hard to explain.
Oh yeah.
If you turn normal things for them that they could enjoy because it's what the parents do. And I don't even do my bed every day. It's not like I've been, the role model for 7 years. I hardly ever do my bed or our bed. And she does it. So if you try and make them, they will not enjoy it. It's like, don't tell me I can't, and don't tell me I have to. These are the two things you need to remember about kids. Because if you tell them don't, they will want to do it even more so. And if you tell them you can't, and I hope that is true for most kids, they will want to try it. Or yeah, they will want to, yeah, just let them, let the kids be. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you remember from the book and like worth or important to share?
Well, I think just the learning, the way you learn, or just think of it as an adult, right? If the reason that you want to learn something is maybe just out of sheer curiosity, so that for the enjoyment of it. But
Mhm.
a lot of times it's also something that you need at the time. So then you would, become better at that skill. And that would be the same as a child, or a child going through uh, the steps, especially as they get older. It would also, they would follow those same two things. And so I don't just go enroll in a class that I'm not interested in because it's required of me at this age, in my 40s. So it's, I think it's just to think of it naturally, just like as you do an adult. Why do you learn some things now? And I think it, maybe there's other reasons, but it might be like work related that you need it, or just your own curiosity, which is the best way. And if you have the freedom, the time, then you get to choose more of the curiosity than what you need.
Mhm. Yeah, that reminds me of something that happened today. I was at my jujitsu class, and my coach was saying, you you need to be interested in what you do. You need to when I see guys or like people, like I don't like to stretch, I don't like to do these rolls. It's like a roly poly, but the martial art ones where you learn how to fall, how to roll and how to fall. And he was mocking the people who don't like to learn this, like, why do I do this? I don't like this. And he explained, you need it for this and for that. And then he said, so you need to be interested. Like if you talk to your spouse, and if you're telling your spouse something and he or she then looks in the air and like, I'm like not interested in what you're saying, I'm bored. And you need to be interested, you need to be here and looking exactly at how I'm showing these things so you learn. And I was just with a big fat smile wanting to say, guys, this is like school. All the kids in school are so bored because they're not interested or they can't do what they're interested in. And they're all just looking around or do something else, not paying attention. And that's the whole point. And we're all adults in that classroom, and we're all there because we choose to, because we enjoy jujitsu and we want to learn it. That's why we're all like, yes, show me. I want to see, and can you explain it again? And like imagine being a teacher for kids who go like, oh my God, tell me more about this. I don't think
Yeah.
you get that much at school. But if it's an environment like a place to be or something similar, that's what the people will get. Like there will be somebody teaching, I don't know, woodwork, let's say. And the kids who are really into this will be surrounding this person and saying, yeah, I want to try, I want to do, how do you do this? Can I do that? Can you help me? And that's way more exciting and interesting for everybody. Like teachers at school. When I was at school, I wondered, why would anybody want to be a teacher? Because all teachers are hated. That's what I thought. Like I thought I don't like many teachers. There were like two or three that were okay, but most of them were assholes, and I didn't like their classes. And then I suppose I became more like in black and white, thinking all teachers are assholes. And
Mhm.
then even if there was a nice one, I thought, yeah, that was nice, he's nice or she's cool, but she's a teacher. And yeah, just imagine working in a place where people really want to hear what you have to say and want to learn from you. That
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
happen much at school.
yeah. I've often thought I want to be a teacher, but only if somebody wanted to learn.
That don't work at a school.
Enthusiastic about it, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, and even teachers do this to themselves. Well, kids don't do this to themselves. It's the parents who send the kids. Most kids don't have a choice, and if they start questioning, they get into trouble. That's a real shame.
Yes, and it's so many generations deep that you just don't even think that you
Mhm.
would ever have another option.
Yeah.
If your children, if you go through it, your generations into it, you're like, of course they're going to go to school. I did. My grandparents did.
Yes.
That's what you do.
I know. I'm glad we're not sending them to school. We're really changing something here, this generation. It's a big difference from all the past generations. When I think about like my parents' upbringing was super hard, and then their parents' upbringing was even harder. Um, yeah, mine was good, except for the school part. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about, because you have been a part of a place to be here in person, have met the people, and kind of got the vibe of it. Can you give people who have never like spoken to us in person or been here a little insight of what a place to be? I know we don't exist yet physically, but it's all about the people and the concept, the idea. Can you give a little insight for the people, what like your view of it, how you think about it? And
Yes. Um, well, I can say that even from the very first time I heard you on it was a podcast. It was something that just kind of struck in me that this was something I I hadn't thought of, and but it was something just that made sense. I like in the last podcast, I think I had said that I had read some of this about unschooling and some of the authors. I'll just go through them: John Taylor Gatto, Peter Gray, and then you introduced me to the Summerhill and the continuum method, and so all these things kind of come together with a place to be in. And right now it's your vision, and already you've attracted another family that I think watched your documentary and just moved to Madeira
Mhm.
based on that. And so anyway, I just want to say I admire your tenacity and just like you're sticking to it. uh, so it will come to be. And just just the even the crossover with Bitcoin, and uh, that it's been attracting like families that are into Bitcoin or that are semi-nomadic. Um, like those crossovers are just, I think that's the most important part. Not that they're Bitcoin, but just that the principles crossover.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, but yes, like being there, I mean, just even though, yes, it's not a physical place yet, I've met some of the families and some of the people that support you there, that will become part of this. It's, it, like, I can't wait to come back and um, help with the physical part of it.
Yes. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, and you brought Bitcoin into this. And one thing I remember from the conference also, because there were almost all of them were Bitcoiners who were there. Some were maybe a bit of like interested or curious, but most of the people on the conference were Bitcoiners. And I've heard one thing several times from several families who came to our booth. Um, they said, I didn't want to have children because of the world. I didn't want to bring children into this world, but now when I found Bitcoin, I've been hopeful, and now I'm pregnant, or now I have kids, or now I want to have kids. And then, seeing something like a place to be, yes, absolutely. Like it just makes so much sense. It doesn't make sense to just go with Bitcoin if you understand the power, the freedom part behind this,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then just go on like normal with the rest of your life. If
Wow.
you see, yeah, something like a place to be, then it gives you even more hope. Bitcoin will fix so many things around the world. Can you, because you've been a Bitcoiner before I knew about it. Can you explain a little bit to the people who are new to Bitcoin or don't know anything about it? What is so amazing and powerful about it?
Yes. Yeah. I think it's the underlying. I think you touched on something there about the hope, maybe that has changed for people. So if you're kind of living in this world and you feel like something is not quite right, right? People start to feel that way. And um, maybe even fatalistic about the future. And some, why is that? Well, that could be a deep question, but it could be, maybe it's as simple as something like you work a lot and you have to work more than you used to make ends meet. And why is that? And everything becomes more expensive over time. And maybe you don't know why, or what's going on. Why is that happening? You just have to, you feel like you're on this hamster wheel of like trying to outpace inflation in a way. And once you kind of understand money a little bit more, and the money system that we're in, I think once you kind of understand the problem with that, and you have an alternative, you can save your money in something that's becoming worth less over time, like a dollar. Or once you learn more about Bitcoin, you can save in some system outside the system that becomes more valuable over time. And the only reason that you know that is because you see it yourself. So you actually have to give it some time as well, both in your actual time to learn about it, and then also time in it, meaning like you maybe first put a little in because you don't trust it yet, but then over time you can see that it is gaining more value. And why is it so much more valuable? Because Bitcoin used to be $1 per Bitcoin not that long ago, less than 10 years, maybe 13 years ago. And now it's gained in value over the dollar. Why is that? Um, so those things. And I think once it can become a tool that can then just help you with all these other things. So if you can save in something that becomes more valuable over time, then you actually get time back. And that time, then you can decide what you want to do with it. And you then have more time to change, learn about a different form of education, a different form of healthcare. Like there's all these branches, so to speak, of what has been affected by, I would say, a monopoly money. So there's this, I can send it to you. There's this picture out there. It's called Strike the Root. And say you want to get rid of a tree or a bush, and it's invasive. It's something you need to get rid of. Well, if you hack at the branches, then you're almost like you're pruning it. You're actually, it'll just grow back more
Mhm.
branches. But what you really need to do is strike the root.
Yeah.
And the branches on this can be, education, healthcare, protectionism, corporatism, taxes, like all these things, maybe even the courts, law. And if there's a lot of injustice in these areas,
Mhm.
or just flat out like wrong things going on. Um, And the root, I think, is the monopoly of money, because once you have control of that, if you're the ones that have control of it, then all these other things that can be easily affected, or the monopoly of power, however, but you can gain those by gaining the system. So if you take that control away from those people, meaning that you have a system where it is not central power, but you have a structure where it's actually more fair uh,
Mhm.
and decentralized, then that's something you can opt into and try, like kind of fixing your own problem that way. And you can do that at individual level. You don't have to wait for the state to change. So
Yeah. Because
that's,
yeah,
yeah.
changing a state or any system in general is
Yeah.
almost next to impossible.
Yeah,
It's
it's out of our control completely.
yeah. Yeah, and the nice thing about Bitcoin, what you said, it's you control your own money. So it's not that you, with Bitcoin, we control Bitcoin for the world. It's everybody who has Bitcoin owns their own Bitcoin, and it cannot be controlled by anybody else. Not like with the like euro, dollar, whatever currency you use.
Mhm. And it's
So it's
not
not, yeah, it's not from one system to another, but for like control to control. It's really decentralization because Bitcoin runs on math. It's not controlled by a person or an organization. And
Mhm.
that's why you kind of only need to trust in the math. You don't need to trust in the people because, as you can see everywhere with politicians and the media and whatnot, it's you can't really trust what they say,
Mm.
and their actions speak a lot louder than their words. So, like for me, I cannot trust anything I hear in the on TV or in the radio or in the newspaper. I've stopped reading and listening to that a long time ago because for me it's just a waste of time. I never knew if they're telling the whole truth or they're just really lying.
Yeah, me as
Um,
well.
sorry.
I said me as well. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's a nice explanation of Bitcoin. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Mhm. I have another angle.
Hmm.
Um, we just had the solar eclipse here and that just passed by in Missouri and most of the US. And it's just amazing that you can accurately predict to the minute when the moon was going to start covering up the radiancy of the sun. And and this can be known 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, to the date and time that this is going to happen. And then they can do this, even I saw a map of it, and there's one going to happen in 2099, and they
Yeah.
know exactly the path.
Wow.
uh, so that is something that we can know, and it's just amazing that you can prove it by like putting on your glasses and you start to see it exactly at that moment. And so it's funny because we have the same thing in Bitcoin. It's very predictable because it is, it's based on like physics and the laws of the universe. Is that we know that in coming up here, April 20th and 19th, when it's the date that doesn't matter, it's the time, the blockchain, when we will reach 840,000 blocks. And, we can look at our node and we can know exactly when that will happen. It'll happen at 840,000 block. And will be, that is predictable that the issuance of Bitcoin will be cut in half.
Hmm.
And we can predict that out for the next 100 years.
Yeah.
Um, and anybody participating in the system will have to play by the same rules.
Yeah.
There's no ruler that can change it. We would
Hmm.
all have to agree on that change, and good luck with that. But that's what I like about Bitcoin. It's actually, I see it as more dependable system that
Hmm.
is predictable because it is just math.
Yeah.
We can verify
The,
it and look at it.
the price is not predictable, but if you've seen what's happened in the last 15 years, after every halving, it went to the new all-time high. The new all-time high has reached now even before the halving this month. Um, so that's kind of exciting. Nobody knows how high it can go now, soon, or in the next few years. There are people who speculate, and it's all speculations, but there is so much happening. If you start looking into it, it's a really good moment now to invest into Bitcoin because of the halving and everything else is happening in different countries. And the ETF that's coming soon. As you can tell, probably, I'm not a real expert in Bitcoin. I know I hear bits and bobs from my husband and from our Bitcoin friends. And what I tell you, I do understand. But I encourage you as well, of course, do your own research. Don't just believe in what we say. It's worth looking into, especially at this point of time in time. Yeah, and if anybody had told me about it like 12 years ago, I wish that had happened. So I hope the listeners can also appreciate this and don't see us as like people trying to convert or just convince about something. It's really good for you. It's really good for the world, actually, like unschooling. So if you're listening to this, you're probably into unschooling or into Bitcoin. So both is gonna change the world to the better.
I think so. That's
Yeah, I think it's already happening. Like people who've been able to use Bitcoin for a few years now, who weren't able to have a bank account, to not send money to their families abroad or on high fees. That is already happening. And people who've invested early, they were able to quit their day jobs or their jobs and just
yeah.
live off their Bitcoin and have a more relaxed life, focus on what they love doing. They got out of the fiat life, out
Mhm.
of the hamster wheels. Yeah, I think that's a really good thing. Just look at every area of your life and see where you can free yourself of authority, of the fiat mindset, because it's
Yeah.
not just in Bitcoin, it's not just in unschooling, it's everywhere else in your life. And how
Mhm.
you do one thing is how you do everything.
That's
Okay, that was a great podcast. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for coming on again. I'll probably have you on in another few months once we've opened up and you've been here to help out again. And then we can give the listeners another insight into a place to be and unschooling and Bitcoin and fiat proving ourselves and the kids.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great day, everybody, and speak soon. Bye bye.